Jackson Reed, we're talking today. We're here for a very important cause, the release of In My Head, your brand new single, which is very exciting. And I think truly it's your best work to date. I love the 80s kind of sound you're going for with it and stuff. And just because it kind of goes like, because with The Walk and then with Dangerous Love with Kenny Aronoff, it's kind of continuing this 80s kind of lane for you, which I think is a great fit for you. And I know we have similar interests in terms of like when the rock guys like Bruce and Bob and Tom Petty, when they went to the 80s and they were experimenting with like 80s synths and stuff and like electronics, I think that there's some of the best music they ever made for all that. And I think that's because you're a classic rock and roll guy, but you're putting the 80s stuff in there. My rambling aside, what was the inspiration for In My Head? Yeah,
well, really the big thing with this song was to make something that was like as commercial as possible. Right. And I've always wanted to write hits. I've always wanted to make my songs as catchy as possible. But I think it was important to try doing something that was like, that had some more kind of modern influences in it. So that was really the goal with this song. But of course, you know, all of my inspirations are from way back in the day. And I really think, like, you know, with when you're talking about the 80s connection there, like I do think like the 80s was a good era for pop. Oh, yeah. And you still kind of hear a lot of like 80s influences in pop music today. Oh, 1,000,000%. Like that's why this like really like is your most contemporary sounding song, even though you're harkening back to the 80s, because so many 80s sounds are in contemporary music today. So I think it really works. So that was really the goal with this song was to do something that could get as big of an audience as possible. While still also, still having that old school feel to it. That's my thing. Being true to you. And I think it is true to you. And then having a bit more newer sounds in there to kind of bring the newer audience in. So what was kind of the inspiration in like writing it? Like I know you said about making like the biggest hit you can, but like let's get into the songwriting process. For sure, yeah. So it all started off, I got in touch with a producer here in Calgary, and her name's Rihanna Lauren. And she was kind of the big help in sort of getting that modern influence in it. Because she does a lot of like R&B, kind of newer sounds and that sort of thing. So it was good having her on board, because what she did is she brought in a bunch of different songwriters. So I actually wrote this song with different people, which I haven't done before. Oh, wow. And that was big because, like, they're all kind of newer artists, and I think, like, they're kind of more in tune with the new stuff going on today. All Calgary artists? Like you? It was all Calgary artists except for one person who's down in Mississippi. Oh, actually, nice. Very cool. Rihanna works with. Very cool. It was... they kind of brought in the modern influences, and then, of course, I had kind of the old school influence there. That was really the process was sort of new for me, because I've never really done like group songwriting before. So but I think it turned out really well. But really, like you're saying, like you're trying to like make a song that kind of would fit on the radio today, but truly, like I really mean this as like I'm kind of an old head with music too, so I relate to what you're saying. It does like sound like, I know recently for your podcast guest, I interviewed David Page of Toto. Like it's kind of Toto-esque too, like truly, So very, very cool. Yeah, writing with other people was definitely a new experience, but I think it worked well. Because it really set out what we were trying to do with this song. So. Yeah, it's a really cool, like, and it's fun. It's been fun watching your career as it's evolved over the years. Like, truly, like, when you use the Tom Petty analogs, like, you went from down the Torpedoes, now you're just like your Southern accents, kind of. Like, you're going into the 80s thing, which I think is very, very cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or Born to Run to Born in the USA. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. So I know, like, from, like...
you have like this interest in older music, but I know like you're particularly interested in the 80s, which goes with In My Head. What are kind of some of your favorite like 80s songs or albums that maybe influenced In My Head, or let's just kind of a broad topic.
Yeah, well, I think like a big 80s influence that it showed up before would be like Prince. I'm a really big Prince fan. Especially because I feel like he's sort of similar to Bruce as a performer, like just so, I want to be that kind of performer on stage where it's just like the show is just so exciting. But, like at the time that I was writing In My Head, one album I was listening to a lot was Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears.
Oh, right.
And
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, just like I feel like in the car I listen to just kind of like 80s compilations a lot. So it's probably just sort of everything.
Like a rock pop 80s, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Tears for Fears album was one I was definitely listening to.
Everybody Wants to Rule. Was that on that one?
Yeah. Which Shout, Head Over Heels.
So, just hit after hit on that, just on the album.
Yeah, exactly.
Unreal. So yeah, I can not you mention that, I can definitely feel the influence for sure. And you have, like you mentioned, your band, the Silverbirds, and which kind of like, so mention, like, give your band roll call on how you found your band members.
Yeah, well, I think we've actually kind of got a lineup for once, which is nice.
Very cool.
Because, like my whole career, it's been just kind of like different people every show. It's been hard for me to find people that I can call to each time. But obviously I'd start off with Jeremy Brigham. He's my keyboard player. We've been working together for about 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. I guess it would be 5 years almost. But Jeremy is one of my best friends for sure. And he's extremely talented. He plays guitar and drums as well. Yeah. And he likes to play keyboard with me because it's like the only chance he really gets to play keyboards.
Sure.
So I think that's why we've been able to keep him around. But I mean, he loves playing as well, so he's happy to play and that sort of thing. So yeah, Jeremy's great. On the drums, we've got Nathan Litvinchuk. I met him at a jam at Mount Royal.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because he's a student there, and so that was where I met Nathan, and he's been great because he's also like kind of, well, he's new to like playing live and that sort of thing, so he's really excited about the chance to get to go out and play live, and we've hit it off really good as well. He's he likes a lot of stuff that I like. It's kind of funny. He sort of he knows a lot. He knows a lot about like the older music as well. Yeah. And like we were hanging out not too long ago, and he was like, "Have you ever listened to Doug and the Slugs?" Oh, so,
Canadian greats, Doug and the Slugs.
Yeah, so now we kind of joke about Doug and the Slugs together. But so Nathan's great drummer. And then on bass we've got Sosa, and Sosa is cool because he is a left-handed bass player.
Okay.
But he plays a right-handed bass, so it's upside down. So like the strings, he keeps it strung as if it was a right-handed guitar, but he learned how to play upside down. So it's kind of a cool, I think that's kind of a unique thing to have in the band. He's really a unique bass player in that regard.
Yeah, and that's the Silverbirds. It's a killer lineup.
Yeah,
that's really, really cool. So we were kind of talking about you working on your craft, becoming more of a well-rounded musician, all that stuff. And I think a part of that is songwriting, because you wrote this with a team of songwriters, but it's your inspiration and stuff. Tell me about the lyrics for In My Head, where those came from, and just
Yeah, it was. It was really just, I think, like I wanted to kind of make something that like, was played with the emotions a bit. I think like the best songs are the ones that make you emotional and make you like relate to stuff, So I think like that was.
And who inspires stuff more than like romantic interests and stuff and like past breakup?
That's why there's. It's an easy topic to write about because it's kind of infinite in what you can. come up with.
As you know, Bob Dylan's my number one favorite, and like Blood on the Tracks,
Right.
heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, in terms of the inspiration, like that's right in my head. Like I kind of was inspired by that.
Yeah, I think so. It was, yeah. I mean, it's a bit. There's a bit of fiction in it as well.
Of course.
But yeah, it was. I think to try and like, it's got a lot of tension to it as well. I think like the song is got tension, and it's also it's kind of unresolved at the end as well, which kind of makes you want to go back and listen to it again. But yeah, it's I think like definitely playing with emotions lyrically, and then also making you feel nostalgic for the 80s and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you said this is your first experience working with other songwriters. Is something you want to do going forward with any like new music you're working on additionally, or are you going to do some working solo, or just it depends on the song?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely do it again. It wasn't I wasn't sure what it was going to be like going into it, but it was a pretty good experience. It was nice to kind of, I mean, especially just because it was, we were trying to, we had the specific idea of, still keeping it me, but bringing in sort of a newer, more contemporary sound and idea and that sort of thing. And yeah, so I think like in that regard, it was really a good thing to have some people helping out with that.
Oh yeah, it's good to find like-minded collaborators, whether it's from the Silverbirds or songwriters, just like you're all working towards the same goal.
Yeah. So it's definitely something I would do again for sure.
And so, like in terms of let's do like I think call it blue skying kind of thing. But what's your ultimate goal? Like, what would be your dream like scenario for the career?
Get a record deal.
Yeah.
That's the goal right now. Because I want to do it full time, and I mean, I also want to make it big for the most part. Sure. I don't want to just be like kind of an independent artist that never kind of like grows past like sort of a niche following. I want to play in stadiums. I want to be on the radio and that sort of thing. A lot of people I feel like these days are like, oh, don't sign with a label. It's the worst thing you could do, but all the big artists that you see these days, they're on labels. There are very few guys that make it as independent, like make it to the top while being independent. So, like getting a record deal is the goal. And I feel lucky. I mean, like with this song, like I've got Gene Foley, who's I've worked with now for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's opened so many doors for me. He's got the ability to get me in front of labels and that sort of thing. And I would not have that opportunity if I didn't have Gene. And also teaming up with Kenton and Peach Jam Records here in Calgary to help with marketing the song, to try and really get buzz for it. The buzz that you need to get signed.
Absolutely.
So yeah, really that's the main goal. And then once we get there, then then I can start to do this for a living. So.
Well, you're doing the work, as they say, Jackson. You're doing the work. And so to kind of wrap on a fun, like again, I've known this for about a year or so since it's been, I still can't go over it, but you collaborate on Dangerous Lover, your previous single. You work with truly the legend Kenny Aronoff on drums.
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
Yeah, well, it's I think it's one of the coolest things I've done. But that was all, once again, having Gene on my team is great because he was the one that set that all up. So I guess it was the summer of 2021, and I was wanting to get a new release out. And I was talking with Gene. I was like, we need to do something big. Like, we need to, I think we need to do something to try and really get people's attention. And I had the idea, like, why don't we try and get someone famous to play on the song? Because I think, it's always a good idea to try and, like, collaborate with like successful people to try and like, get their audience to check it out and that sort of thing. And he was like, oh yeah, well, there's loads of people I could reach out to. But right away he was like, I could get Kenny Aronoff to play drums on your song. And
he's one of those guys, in case the audience doesn't know, like, You've heard him play on hundreds of songs. Also very recognizable, kind of the bald head,
Yeah.
the glasses.
Exactly.
You've seen him I remember he did some John Fogerty. I remember for on Letterman, he's in just Mellencamp, of course.
Yeah.
Just go down the line and just one of the top drummers of all time.
Well, yeah, and I mean right away when he said Kenny Aronoff, because I'm a big John Mellencamp fan.
Yeah.
So, I'm familiar with Kenny through that. And then also you mentioned John Fogerty, and this is kind of the cool thing about getting to work with Kenny, because the first rock concert I ever went to was John Fogerty. When I was 16, they were playing at the Saddle Dome, and so I'm still in high school, and I'd say I'm at the point now where I'm a guitar player, but I haven't written a song yet by this point. And of course, the show was great. CCR was very, one of those foundational bands for me. So it was awesome to see.
He puts on a great live show.
John Fogerty's awesome. But Kenny was the drummer at that show. And it was such a full circle moment to, to be at that show.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing going on at that point. And then 7 years later, I got to record with someone that was on stage at that show, my first concert.
Yeah, go back to to tell young Jackson this. Yeah. That's a true pinch me moment.
Exactly, yeah. And it was really cool, and I was quite blown away how easy it was. Gene was yeah, he'll do it right away. And I was
oh wow.
I was well, that seems it doesn't seem like he'd be the kind of guy that would do that. And he was no, well, he does it for my people. So,
oh wow, the power of Gene.
Yeah, but Kenny does a lot of session work though.
Yes.
So he's got his own studio in LA where he records drums. And so what we did was we recorded everything but the drums in Calgary. We recorded off of a drum machine, and then we used that to kind
of demo.
Yeah, and just so that Kenny could kind of
reference track.
Yeah. But then then we sent everything to him, and he did 2 takes of the song, and they were both my producer at the time, Pat McCauley. I go in. He got both takes put in the song. I came in to listen, and both of them were it was jaw dropping how good it was. And what we ended up doing actually was we combined both tracks. We sort of we
cool.
comped it, where we sort of we made notes of fills that we liked in both takes, and then we sort of made a Frankenstein track.
Oh, that's cool. And just again, to emphasize this, you're not just listening to a great Kenny drum track, you're listening to a great Kenny drum track for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is just again, this is amazing.
Yeah. It's funny because I was talking about it with Pat at the time, and he was these are the easiest drums I have ever worked with in my entire time recording music. And because he was saying normally it's there's a lot of little mistakes you have to go in and edit, and then maybe the levels aren't right and stuff like that. And but he was with Kenny, it was bang on. There was nothing was off time.
Professional.
And yeah, it's the sound levels were perfect. There was nothing too loud. And with Kenny, I don't know if he did any editing beforehand, but honestly, he's probably good enough that he just hopped on, did 2 takes, and that was
Kenny,
it.
he might have a future.
Yeah.
He's young upstart.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, it was also cool. I didn't I guess we only sort of spoke over email. But Kenny, when he sent me the files back, he was hey, this is a really cool song.
Nice.
Reminded me of some stuff that I did with Mellencamp.
Oh,
which I mean, the
dream.
I'll take that comparison any day of the week.
I would frame that email in your house.
Yeah. And then once we finished it and we got it mixed and mastered and everything, I sent the final track to him, and he was like, "Wow, this sounds really good." And
nice.
The cool thing that he said was, he was like, it sounded like we were in the room playing at the same time. Like,
Oh, man.
even though obviously
You'd never know. Yeah.
It was all separately.
Yeah, of
but
course.
Yeah, he was like, it was so smooth. It was like we were
So
playing together.
Props to your team from Kenny, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I think like, that, there are a lot of times, pretty much daily, I think like, I'm not doing enough, like I need to do more. I'm not accomplishing enough. But when I think about that, like that, I did a song with Kenny and that he liked it, I guess I'm doing something right.
Oh yeah. And like having those anxious feelings too, like that's a sign of like any great artist. Like it shows you care. Because the worst thing is being like, oh, I don't care. Like, then just, it shows you give give a crap, I should say, about your art. And clearly it shows in my head. I love Dangerous Lover, love your songs, but I do think in my head is your best work to date, and I'm excited for everything that comes out, and I'm excited for the song to officially come out. And when is In My Head dropping, as they say?
It's coming out February 17th. And we're gonna. I'm putting everything I've got into this song. We're gonna try and get it on radio, get as much press for it as we can. All the Spotify playlists. We've got a music video coming out for it as well.
Oh,
it'll probably be out a little bit after the song comes out, but the video looks great. I think it's the best video I've put together.
Very cool.
We had a lot of great people work on it, and it looks like a real music video. So it's
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, we're gonna try and go hard with this song for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? When you listen to the song, it'll be in your head.
Yeah. Well, that's I try and do that with all my songs. So, yeah.
But this one in particular, it's a sticky, and it's catchy. It's great, and we talk about the inspiration for it. There's something behind it, and so it's the total package. And Jackson, you're the total package. Thanks for chatting with me today.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for doing this, Ben.
All right.